I've been painting the creatures for Nemesis Retaliation using both airbrush speed painting and Slapchop. So today I thought I would do a direct comparison between these two styles in a single video. What has surprised me most during this painting series is that one approach doesn't always produce better results than the other. I've had great success with the airbrush and I've achieved outstanding results with Slapchop. So let's get started painting the adult for Nemesis Retaliation and see what we can learn. Welcome to Treehane Miniatures. I don't always timestamp my videos, but when I do, it's usually for a good reason. So unless you have a morbid curiosity to see just how bad I screwed up the airbrush version of this miniature, you can jump straight to the Slapchop version using the timestamp down below. Before getting started with the adult alien, let's take a look at some of the results that we've gotten so far with these two miniature painting approaches. I think it's clear that one can achieve much greater control over the lighting effects on a miniature by using standard acrylic paints and layering. But Slapchop and speed paints often produce much more vibrant colors that are perfect for the tabletop, and it can be accomplished in much less time. Today's miniature comparison shocked me because I feel that the Slapchop version turned out vastly superior to the one that I painted with the airbrush. Of course, this has more to do with my color choices and technical skills rather than a direct reflection of the painting styles themselves. More so than on the last two models, I'm fully embracing the speed paint airbrush approach for this adult alien miniature. I used just 2 coats of paint through the airbrush. The first coat of dark jade is sprayed uniformly over the black Rattlesnake primer that I started with. This is the primary color for the entire alien. I follow that up with a second layer that is made up of a mix of dark jade and pale yellow, which is basically an alternative to ice yellow for creating highlight colors. I really like how the pale yellow works to lighten this dark jade. And that's it for the airbrush. The rest of the model is painted using a standard brush. I continue with a slightly lighter mix of dark jade and pale yellow. When I painted the queen, I chose to apply an oil wash right after using the airbrush, and then I proceeded to finish up the details on the model with a standard brush. However, when batch painting minion miniatures like this, I like to take the fastest path to getting the model's tabletop ready. This means that I like to knock out all of the acrylic paintwork first, and then I finish it up with an oil wash. In true speed paint fashion, I use the side of my brush to quickly dry brush the highlights into place and apply some edge highlights. I then use a couple of other colors to bring out some of the details in the model. In hindsight, I think that I could have gone further with this idea and incorporated at least one dynamic color that contrasts a bit more with the jade color that dominates most of this piece. I learned later from the Slapchop piece that a pink face works really well against the dark jade backdrop of the body. For this version, however, I went with more neutral colors for the face and abdomen, very similar to what I used when I painted the alien queen. To break up the monotony and add some interest, I decide to glaze in some crusted sour to bring some of the reddish hues into the face. I think that the pink speed paint that I use on the next model executes this better. I also used the crusted sour over some of the jade areas on the extremities. I wanted to darken the ends of the appendages, and brushing this red over the jade will give it a gritty, darkened look. We're all done painting, and all that's left is to apply the oil wash. I make the oil wash with a mix of alizarin crimson and phthalo blue, which I then thin substantially with mineral spirits. I apply this liberally and freely over the model to add some depth to the shadow areas and recesses. Once it's in place, I don't really allow it to dry much before removing the wash with a small makeup application sponge. Removing the oil wash is a very, very gentle process, using almost no pressure at all. If I feel that the sponge isn't removing enough oil wash, I simply soak up a little mineral spirits into the sponge instead of pressing harder. Alright, so this guy came out just okay, but that is speed painting. Sometimes you sacrifice beauty for speed. So let's see what we can get done with the Slapchop version of this miniature. This miniature that I'm using for the Slapchop version is a resin printed prototype miniature that I received from Brian over at Game Brigade. These prototype miniatures have the Awakened Realms Sundrop finish on them, which will make Slapchop preparation a breeze. They're already primed, there's a deep shadow color in the recesses, and there's a neutral mid-tone color over the entire miniature. All that's left for me to do is lay down a light dry brush of titanium white paint and I'll be good to go. Not only that, but priming and dry brushing a couple of layers on a model takes almost as much time as the speed paint portion. This is saving me a bunch of time. Instead of making stuff up as I go along and winging it with my color choices as I did with the previous model, I'm going to take a quick look at the game art and plan all of my color choices ahead of time. I like the boost of color that the red infuses into the piece. For that, I'll use Familiar Pink Speed Paint. I'll use Pallid Bone for the neutral color that is present on the inner arms, face, and abdomen. The rest of the creature is mostly green, so I'll start with some Plasmatic Bolt and then touch it up a bit with some Orc Skin in key locations like hands, feet, and spiky bits. I go with the Familiar Pink first because this is the color that I'm least sure about. If it doesn't go the way I want, I can start over without losing a whole bunch of work. This is also the easiest color to place. I dab a little on the alien's tongue and then swipe a quick breast cancer awareness Zorro mask across its eyes. Done. Before I put the main teal color on the miniature, I want to map out where the neutral flesh color is going. I use Pallid Bone on the lower face and neck, upper torso, and on the alien's inner arms. This neutral shade should help break up the overwhelming contrast of the other two primary colors on the piece. This goes on first because I'm going to allow the Plasmatic Bolt to tint this color when I get to that step. The Plasmatic Bolt is the main color for the alien's skin. The only place where I want to be careful with this is right around the face. It's okay if I hit some of the Pallid Bone, but I really don't want to mess up the pink area. In fact, as far as the Pallid Bone goes, I'm intentionally painting the teal over it on the arms, knees, and torso. This will tint the Pallid Bone, but still allow it to show through on the raised surfaces. I feel that this gives the creature's coloration a more organic look instead of there being stark separation between patches of colors. It feels like we just began painting this guy and we're already approaching the finish line. I'm using Orc Skin to break up the monotony of the teal over the body. I use it to darken areas like the hands, feet, knees, and elbows. I might as well have just said head, shoulders, knees, and toes. I feel that this little extra touch sets the mini apart from a half-assed Slapchop approach. This extra bit of color is something that I wish I had added to the standard acrylic paint version of the model. I may go back to the rest of the models and speed paint them with the airbrush, but I'll incorporate some of the lessons I learned while slap chopping this guy. I like how the color choices more closely resemble the game art, and I think that the brighter colors will have a better table presence with this particular model. The final thing that I want to do is dirty things up a bit with some Agrax Earth Shade. I'm using this to shade the bright green areas so that everything on the mini isn't super vivid in a Crayola crayon sort of way. Then I call it a wrap. I think that this version blows the doors off the airbrush speed painting version. I still prefer the airbrush for speed painting, but I definitely missed the mark with that this time around. And I'd like to thank my channel members for helping support the channel and all that I do here. You too can become a channel member and support the channel by using the link in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to join our growing community of painters.